Hello, I would like to talk to you about one of my favorite Psalms today is Psalm 84, and it is known as a prayer for the longing of the house of the Lord. Listen to the first two verses of the Psalm. How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord! My soul yearns, even faints, for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God. And the first half of the 10th verse. Better is one day in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere. Do you love and long to be in church? In verses 6 and 7, the psalmist says, even a pilgrimage to the temple is a blessing. He remembers how, as the pilgrims drew closer to their goal, they grew stronger in their resolve to meet with God. The verse says, as they pass through the valley of Baca, they make it a place of springs. The autumn rains also cover it with pools. They go from strength to strength till each appears before God in Zion. So I ask again, do you long for the temple? Or in other words, long to be in church? You may have a heightened desire to be in church now because of our inability to meet together. And yet I wonder if your longings are similar to that of the psalmist, and even more so, are you wanting to be in church for the same reasons as the psalmist? I'm sure many of you, like me, miss our church family, and I do very much. But I hope you also miss being in the presence of being in God's presence and worshiping Him. These are the reasons the psalmist desires to be in God's temple. As we consider the psalmist's longing for the temple, it might be helpful to go to 2 Chronicles to remember why the temple was built in the first place. After Solomon built the temple, there was a celebration. The trumpeters and musicians joined in unison to give praise and thanks to God. Accompanied by trumpets, cymbals, and other instruments, the singers raised their voices in praise to the Lord and sang, He is good, His love endures forever. Then the temple of the Lord was filled with a cloud, and the priests could not perform their service because of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord filled the temple. That is 2 Chronicles 5:13 and 14. And these verses state that God's presence filled the temple. And a few chapters later, God said, I have chosen and consecrated this temple so that my name may be there forever. My eyes and my heart will always be there. Isn't it an amazing privilege to know that when we enter church, God's eyes and His heart are with us? The psalmist continues to state in verses 84, 4, 5, and 12 the amazing gifts of being in God's presence. Have you ever considered or made a list of the privileges of being in God's presence? The psalmist gives three. They are named the Blessed Are statements. These verses state, Blessed are those who dwell in the house of the Lord. Blessed are those whose strength is in the Lord. And blessed are those who trust in the Lord. You may wonder from reading this psalm if these blessed are statements are only for us when we are in church. The awesome, wonderful, blessed reason is no. We can enjoy these blessings always. Going back to 2 Chronicles 2, 5, and 6, Solomon states that the temple cannot contain God. He says, the temple I am going to build will be great, because our God is greater than all other gods. But who is able to build a temple for Him? Since the heavens, even the highest heavens, cannot contain Him. Yes, God's presence is found in the church, but it is not only contained in the church. The good news of the New Testament is that we can always be in God's presence. Going back to the story of Jesus in Matthew 27:51, it says when Jesus died on the cross, the temple curtain was split. That seems like such an odd detail, But what it indicates is that we can always go into God's presence because of what Jesus has done. In fact, we know from 1 Chronicles or Corinthians 6:19 that the Holy Spirit lives in us. This verse says, "Do you not know that your bodies are a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God?" What an awesome gift it is to have the Holy Spirit living in us. God is with us every single moment of every single day. One of my favorite passages is Psalms 150 or 139 because it details God's presence in this way. "O Lord, you have searched me and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you know it completely, O Lord. You hem me in behind and before. You laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of dawn, if I settle at the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me, and your right hand will hold me fast." Then a few verses later in Psalm it says, "How precious to me are your thoughts, O God! How vast is the sum of them! If I would count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. Even when I awake, I am still with you." These words proclaim that God is with us continually. He even thinks of us more than the grains of sand. Isn't that amazing? God is always with us, and his presence, as the psalmist proclaims, is a blessing. Not only that, but his presence brings us strength and helps us to trust in him. Additionally, as verses in Psalm 84 say in verse 9, 11, and 12, God will protect, bestow favor, and bestow good things on those who walk is blameless. Here, the verses for "the Lord is a sun and shield, the Lord bestows favor and honor. No good thing does he withhold from those who are blameless." These verses remind us that God is the source of life and light, a shield and the ultimate source of protection. He pours his favor onto us, those who walk blamelessly. I don't know about you, but I know I don't walk blamelessly, but that refers to walking with the Lord with an undivided heart. Our heart is for God and we love him with all of it. So to close, I hope you long for God's presence as a psalmist. I hope that you are reassured that God's presence is always with us in church, but it is always with us even when we aren't in church, because he lives within us. I pray that as you experience God's presence, it will bring you strength and it will help you to increase your trust in him. And it will also help you to know that you are precious and you are precious to him as his child, and he will grant you favor. Thank you for letting me share one of my favorite Psalms with you today.